What's up, everybody? I'm Jen Cameron, joined by my lovely co-host, Sonia Maroney. And welcome to our humble yet inspired video series, where you're listening to a countdown to NRF Protect.
We are going to have what can only be an eye-opening discussion. Joining us today is Walter Maxwell from OpenEye. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Jen, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited as well. Walter, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your journey into the security space?
Sure. So I always like to start off this kind of a thing with I was born at a very young age, but anyways, we won't go that far back. Anyways, yeah, I spent about 10 years working in the credit card processing world, mainly for online transactions and in the securing of data. And so I dealing with that. That's called PCI compliance, is the oversight for that, and really dove into that side of things on the sales side, but also how to get into it on the technical side because of the reality of protecting that cardholder data. And the interesting thing is that that type of security and video security are really not much different. Securing is securing, especially data. And so it's just basically a lot of the methodology is the same. So I transitioned out of that and stuck in the more of the videos or the software service type of world in selling that. And then I had an opportunity to come to OpenEye and jumped at it. Just thought, didn't know much about video surveillance itself, but as I got into it, at the time I got into it, our company was in the midst transition from being more of a manufacturing company to more of a what we call VSaaS, or video software as service. And in that, then the securing of that data is obviously has always been important, but more increasingly important because of the fact that we're dealing with cloud access and things of that nature. So I have quite a few years of dealing with the security side of data, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. Makes me very boring at parties though.
Well, certainly there must be something drawing you back. So is there that one thing that keeps you coming back to security?
A lot of it's just because it's becoming the tip of the spear when it comes to technology, because all the future is always moving towards cloud and online and everything's becoming less physical, more technical, across the board. I went and I saw the Top Gun movie this weekend, yeah. and the difference between like the old school F-14 and the F-18 and some of these new aircraft is there. Everything's gone more from the physical side of really the pilot-centric type of thing. Still, the pilots are important, but now you have all this extra technology and data that you have to utilize in order to, it makes everything quicker and faster, obviously, which is important, but also too, then there's a lot of people trying to steal that. There's a lot of the security aspects to it. So that's the cool part about security. It's always going to be really tip of the spear, and so anyways, that's what brings me back. Is I love technology and I love learning new things, and I love seeing kind of where things are going in the future and how to stay in front of that, or how to best project that. So.
I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed with your timely reference to Top Gun. I actually also saw it this weekend, and it was actually very, very good. Sonia and I have kind of a tradition for all of our guests where we want to kick things off by just asking you what's a hot topic or a trending topic in the security space that you can't stop thinking about or you can't stop talking about to either your friends or colleagues.
Yeah, funny thing is it's really not as much to do with tip of the spear technology as it is supply chain. The cool part about, like, for us with video software service is you can provide access to the software instantaneous. You don't need to worry about any physical supply, any of that type of stuff. But then you have to have the recorders, and you have to have the cameras, and then we manufacture those, but also you have to get the parts. And so we've been seeing a huge supply chain issue, and everyone else has too. I mean, all you have to do is say, hello, we had issues with toilet paper at one time, I mean, so, I mean, and toilet paper is not very technical, and with that then, but in our world, it really has become a big issue, and a lot of it is, dealing with the geopolitics, going on, because China was has been a major manufacturer and supplier of things, and because of some of the realities going on with them in Taiwan, and also some of what's going on with the issue with Russia and Ukraine, is really, and then obviously COVID kicking the party off, so to speak, and really creating a lot of issues there. It's really snowballed in a lot of ways, and what it's really coming to in the conversations around is how do you create multiple ways of getting product or getting supplies to build the products than just what was been typically this kind of the one functioning system that, it was running very smoothly and didn't take much to really knock it off. And so now it's like, how do you get these different, I guess you could say, pipelines of supply from different areas so that you're not relying on one specific area. And so that's not just in our world in video surveillance, but that's it. You're seeing it with chips for cars, really across the board in any kind of technology is, now like here in the United States, they're building new plants, I believe in Ohio and different places for, the processing chips and things of that nature that we used to 100% rely on China for because of this reality. And I think we're going to see more and more of that happening.
Great, Walter. And, speaking of like change and shift and flexibility, Jen and I often listen to the podcast Remarkable Retail. A recent one that we found that was interesting was, how it took a pandemic. Yep, there's the plug. How it took a pandemic for retailers to innovate. So agree or disagree?
Oh, 100% agree. In fact, I was reading a Wall Street Journal article, and the interesting thing is so pre-pandemic, people were people still were shifting away from the brick and mortar stores. Malls were becoming less and less, populated, so to speak, and not seeing as much foot traffic and all that because you have Amazon, and I know for myself, like I do all my Christmas shopping online because I don't, dealing with I don't know if I could say this or not, but asses and elbows, walking through stores and stuff like that. You might have to delete that out. I don't know. But anyways, of physical stores, it's, a lot of people don't like that, so, and then the convenience of being able, having things delivered and all that. So it was already moving in that direction. But then once the pandemic hit, everything in that direction took off. So you saw all these different platforms like in the stock market really take off, anything from, Peloton to obviously Amazon and all these streaming platforms, but also if you think of like Teams and these different, people having to work from home, so also video conferencing, those platforms took off. So all these digital platforms that are already out there, but just kind of were being used, also became just premium, and those stocks just went nuts. Then obviously, with the pandemic lasting as long as it did, seemingly an eternity, especially for an extrovert like me, I was just, oh man, I was clawing the walls. And so I love my dog, but I hated him for a long time because he was, too much time with him was not fun. But anyways, so then the interesting thing is, I think, where everyone thought was that was going to continue to rise even after the, once the pandemic subsided and we went back to work and people got out, it's gone the other way. It's actually now brick and mortar is starting to come back, and because it's not as much that people don't want the convenience, it's more if people want to get out and they like the experience. And so I don't think it's ever going to go back to what it used to be, because obviously, we all have our habits and all that. But what I'm seeing is, or what Wall Street Journal article said, is that you're going to see now this really, a really kind of a hybrid type of world. So how then are you going to be able to then service that? Because especially, on the surveillance side of things, because these companies have turned to using video surveillance more and more and more, not only just for protecting their stuff and catching criminals and that type of thing. They're also utilizing it for how many people are in the store and how many people are standing in line. They also were using them for training purposes and different kind of aspects that I think were kind of unintended consequences from the pandemic, because they have to they want to make sure they keep their numbers tight. So if you think of a quick serve restaurant, if they have not very many people in line, maybe they need to send a couple people home a little earlier, or or maybe there's extra lines because someone's a little slow, or things are or they're not sweeping like they should, or different things like that. Now they're utilizing that video a lot differently. And I also see just in the future too, probably marketing purposes, saying, hey, we put out this this commercial, just through our, we painted out to people on their phones, and 20 minutes afterwards, all of a sudden our stores saw a big influx of people or something like that. So I can even see it even growing out in more of the marketing, stratosphere as well.
Yeah, no, lots of big changes and exciting changes, in the future and nearby future. So Walter, thank you again for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of retail and security. If you want to hear more, which I'm sure you do, join us next week when we will be catching up with Vic Jacinto from IKEA. That's all from today's episode. See you next time on YBI with our hosts, Jen Cameron and Sonia Maroney. Thanks, guys. Bye.